The monitors beat their monotonous rhythm in the sterile bedroom of the Ashford mansion, each tone marking another moment of Margaret Ashford's slow descent into silence. Her son, James, stood at the window overlooking the manicure grounds, his reflection ghostly in the glass. A man worth $200 million who couldn't buy the one thing that mattered. "Mr. Ashford, the new cleaning service is here." His assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. James didn't turn. "Fine. Show them in." He'd stopped caring about such trivial matters months ago, when his mother first stopped recognizing his face. The woman who appeared in the doorway of his mother's room that afternoon was unremarkable in every way that mattered to James's world. Rosa Martinez wore a simple blue uniform, her dark hair pulled back in a practical bun, her hands rough from years of honest work. She carried a bucket and mop like weapons against chaos, her eyes quick and assessing as they swept the room. "This room," she said quietly, her accent thick but her words clear, "it smells like a hospital, not like a home." James turned sharply. "Excuse me." Rosa met his gaze without flinching. "Your mother, she is dying here, yes?" The bluntness should have offended him. Instead, something in her directness, something true, made him nod. "Then she should not spend her last days breathing bleach and medicine," Rosa continued, moving to the window. She pulled back the heavy curtains James's nurses had drawn weeks ago, flooding the room with September light. She should smell flowers, bread baking, life. The doctor said... "The doctors are keeping her alive," Rosa interrupted gently. "But are they letting her live?" James had hired 17 specialists. He'd flown in experts from Johns Hopkins, from Mayo, from Zurich. Each one had examined his mother's withered form, reviewed her charts, and delivered the same verdict with varying degrees of professional sympathy. Early onset dementia, aggressive and irreversible. Margaret Ashford, who had once run her late husband's company with an iron fist when James was too young to inherit, who had memorized poetry and spoken 4 languages, was forgetting how to swallow. The medications multiplied. The machines hummed louder, and his mother faded further away, her eyes growing more distant each day, until James couldn't tell if she was looking at him or threw him into some country he couldn't follow. "Why did you become a cleaner?" James asked Rosa one afternoon, 2 weeks after she'd started. She was polishing the silverware his mother would never use again, each piece receiving careful attention. Rosa smiled. "I did not become a cleaner, Mr. Ashford. I was always a cleaner. It is a good job. You see the difference you make. There are easier ways to make a living. Easier, yes, but easier is not always better." She set down a fork, examining her reflection in its surface. "My grandmother, she taught me something. She said the hands that care for a home care for the soul inside it. Your mother's room, before, it was a place to die. Now I am trying to make it a place to remember living." James watched as Rosa arranged fresh lavender in a vase, the purple flowers bright against the white walls. Since her arrival, subtle changes had transformed his mother's prison. Photographs now lined the windowsill. Images James had forgotten existed, his mother laughing at his childhood birthday parties, holding him as a newborn, dancing at her own wedding. Classical music played softly from a small speaker. The antiseptic smell had been replaced by something warm, vanilla, cinnamon, the scent of Rosa's homemade bread. "She still doesn't know who I am," James said, the words bitter in his throat. "No," Rosa agreed, "but maybe she feels less alone." The crisis came on a Thursday night. James received a call at midnight during a board meeting in Tokyo. His mother had stopped eating entirely, and Dr. Chen recommended a feeding tube. James caught the first flight home, arriving at dawn to find Rosa already in his mother's room, speaking softly in Spanish. "What are you doing here?" James demanded, exhausted and frightened. "It's 6 a.m. Rosa didn't look up from where she sat beside his mother's bed, holding Margaret's withered hand. "I come early now, to talk to her. She can't understand you. Perhaps, perhaps not." Rosa finally met his eyes. "My grandmother, before she died, she forgot many things. Forgot my name, forgot my face. But she never forgot the songs her mother sang to her. The deeper memories, they stay longer. I am trying to find your mother's. James slumped into a chair, defeated. The feeding tube. They want to insert it this afternoon. And you? What do you want? The question hung in the air between them. What did he want? He wanted his mother back. He wanted to hear her voice one more time, to ask her advice about the merger he couldn't decide on, to tell her he was sorry for all the dinners he'd missed while building his empire. He wanted the impossible. I want her to stay, he whispered. Rosa squeezed his mother's hand gently. Then let me try something first. One thing. And if it does not work, you do the feeding tube. Rosa's plan was absurd. She wanted to bake Margaret's favorite cake, a recipe she'd extracted from James's vague memories and the ancient cookbook his mother had annotated in the margins. Not just bake it, but bake it in the room, using a small oven she'd borrowed, filling the air with the scent of chocolate and butter. The doctors will never allow it. James protested. The doctors are not here. Rosa was already measuring flour. You want her to stay, yes? Then give her a reason. Give her a memory stronger than the nothing that is taking her. James should have stopped her, should have called security, insisted on proper medical protocols. Instead, he sat beside his mother's bed and watched Rosa work, her movements practiced and sure, while Margaret lay still as a stone effigy of herself. The cake baked slowly, filling the room with scent that transported James backward through time. He remembered being 7 years old, coming home from school to find his mother in the kitchen, flour dusting her nose, the same smell wrapping around him like love made tangible. His father had been alive then, and his mother had laughed more. Chocolate cake cures sadness, she used to say. Not forever, but for now. And sometimes now is enough. Rosa removed the cake from the oven, its surface cracked and imperfect. She cut a small piece, let it cool, then mashed it with milk until it was nearly liquid. Gently, she lifted a spoonful to Margaret's cracked lips. Nothing happened. Rosa tried again, speaking softly in Spanish, then English, then humming a tune James didn't recognize. Margaret's eyes remained closed, her breathing shallow. James felt something break inside his chest. It's not working. Patience, Rosa murmured. She brought the spoon up a third time, and as the sweet mixture touched Margaret's lips, something miraculous happened. His mother's throat moved. She swallowed. Then her eyes opened. They were unclear at first, those eyes, still clouded with whatever fog had consumed her mind. But they focused on the spoon on Rosa's face, and then, impossibly, they found James. Jamie? The word was barely a whisper, but it was his name, his childhood name, the one only his mother had used. James couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Your mother, Margaret continued, each word an effort, always made this when you were sad. Did I ever tell you? She made it for me, too, when your father, when he... She trailed off, but her eyes remained clear, present in a way they hadn't been in months. Mom! James moved to her bedside, taking her other hand. It was so small, so fragile in his grip. Margaret smiled, a ghost of her old expression. I've been so far away, haven't I? I could feel you calling, but I couldn't find my way back. Until just now. That smell, it's like a rope pulling me home. The moment lasted perhaps 5 minutes, perhaps less. Margaret ate 3 more spoonfuls of cake, asked about James's work, told Rosa her eyes were kind. Then the fog returned, and she slipped back into that distant country, her gaze going vacant once more. But something had shifted. Over the following weeks, Rosa continued her unorthodox therapy. Scent and songs, familiar foods and old photographs, each one a thread trying to tether Margaret to the world. She didn't wake fully again, not like that first time, but there were moments, small recognitions, a squeeze of James's hand, a tear on his mother's cheek when Rosa played her wedding song. The feeding tube was never inserted. Margaret Ashford died on a Tuesday morning in October, with sunlight streaming through her window and the scent of bread baking in the air. James held one hand, Rosa the other, and when his mother took her last breath, there was something like peace on her face. At the funeral, James stood before a church full of business associates and society figures who had known his mother as a force of nature, and he told them about Rosa, about the chocolate cake, about the impossible moment when a cleaning lady had done what all his money and all his doctors could not, had brought his mother back, however briefly, from the edge of forgetting. She taught me, James said, his voice breaking, that the things that matter can't be bought. They have to be baked, to be sung, to be offered with hands that understand what it means to care. After the service, James found Rosa packing her supplies, preparing to move on to her next client. "Wait," he said. "I want to offer you a job. A real position. Head of, I don't know, patient care? Memory therapy? I'll fund whatever you need. Train others to do what you do." Rosa smiled, but she shook her head. "Mr. Ashford, what I did for your mother, it cannot be taught in training. It comes from here." She touched her chest. "You want to honor her? Do not build a program. Live differently. That is what your mother would want." She pressed something into his hand, the worn recipe card. His mother's handwriting faded but legible. "Chocolate cake cures sadness," Rosa said. "Not forever, but for now, and sometimes now is enough." 6 months later, James Ashford stepped down as CEO. He didn't abandon his business. His mother hadn't raised a quitter, but he restructured his life. He learned to bake. He volunteered at memory care facilities, bringing fresh bread and old photographs. He remembered Rosa's words, her grandmother's wisdom, the hands that care for a home care for the soul inside it. And sometimes late at night when the grief felt too heavy, James would stand in his kitchen and bake chocolate cake. And for a moment, just a moment, he could feel his mother near again. Not in the machines or medications that had filled her final room, but in the warmth of the oven, in the sweetness of the batter, in the impossible gift the cleaning lady had given him. The knowledge that love is sometimes measured not in what we can buy, but in what we're willing to make with our own hands. The recipe card hung framed in his kitchen, a reminder that the most valuable things in life often come from the most unexpected places, delivered by angels who carry mops instead of halos, who know that sometimes the greatest miracle is simply helping someone remember, for one last precious moment, what it felt like to come home. Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.